Step outside on a moonless night, far from any city. Ancient humans saw thousands of stars above them every night. They did not stare up in wonder and simply sleep. They were reading the sky like a daily field report. Hunter-gatherers memorized hundreds of individual star configurations by name, not as mythology, as a practical, living survival database. The Pleiades cluster, visible to the naked eye, was a calendar. Its annual reappearance in the dawn sky signaled coming migrations. Miss that signal, and your group could face starvation. Star positions also predicted weather shifts days or weeks ahead. Entire unfamiliar landscapes were navigated using memorized star paths overhead. How does a mind hold an entire sky as memory? Researcher Dwayne Hamaker has documented Aboriginal Australians tracking precise star cycles. These weren't folk stories, they were operational astronomical records. Cultures across every continent independently developed similar stellar calendars. The night sky was the original shared information network of humanity. No technology was required, only the trained human eye and memory. We call it stargazing, they called it staying alive. You were lying on bare earth, pressed against warm bodies. Ancient humans never slept alone, not once. They slept in tightly pressed social clusters every night. At Sibudu Cave in South Africa, archaeologists found ancient bedding. It dates back roughly 77,000 years. Multiple sleeping areas surrounded a single shared hearth. Bodies clustered close, always within reach of the fire. Anthropologists studying the Hadza of Tanzania see this today. Even among modern hunter-gatherers, solitary sleep is nearly unknown. Sleeping this close to near strangers is biologically strange. No other great ape sleeps pressed this close, this consistently. So what were our ancestors actually gaining from this risk? Sleep is the most dangerous moment in any animal's existence. Unconscious and still, you are perfectly vulnerable to predators. Choosing shared vulnerability was not weakness, it was strategy. Sustained physical closeness reliably triggers oxytocin in the human brain. Oxytocin is the neurochemical that generates trust and attachment. Night after night, sleeping beside someone quietly built that trust. Shared helplessness, repeated endlessly, became the glue of community. Humanity's first social contract was not spoken. It was slept. Close your eyes, and the forest becomes everything. Without useful vision, the ears became the primary survival tool. Every rustle, every pause, every distant call carried meaning. A sudden silence from nearby crickets meant something large was moving. Ancient humans learned to read that silence like a warning sign. The acoustic landscape of night was essentially a living map. Predator or prey, near or far, the darkness told you. The Hadza of Tanzania still navigate this way today. They identify predators by sound alone in complete darkness. What does it mean that this skill is still alive in us? The human auditory cortex sharpens measurably in low-light conditions. The brain reallocates resources when the eyes go dark. This is not metaphor. Researchers have measured the shift. Half of every 24-hour day belonged to darkness and sound. Over generations, that nightly acoustic training left deep marks. Some researchers now link this heightened sensitivity to the origins of music. The first rhythms may have been predator warning patterns. Tonal languages, too, may carry echoes of this ancient night listening. Every melody you have ever loved may be a memory of darkness. You wake at 2 a.m., and something feels strangely correct. That quiet hour between sleeps isn't insomnia, it's inheritance. Historian Roger Ekirch spent 16 years inside historical archives. He found hundreds of references to first sleep and second sleep. Pre-industrial Europeans wrote about this waking window completely casually. It appeared in court records, prayer books, and medical guides. Similar references surfaced independently across Africa, Asia, and the Americas. This was never a disorder. It was the original design. But how do you test a sleep pattern from thousands of years ago? In the 1990s, sleep researcher Thomas Wehr found the answer. Wehr removed artificial light from volunteers for several weeks straight. Within weeks, every subject independently shifted to the same pattern. 4 hours of sleep, then wakefulness, then 4 more hours. The body had remembered something the modern world had erased. During that waking interval, prolactin levels surged dramatically in every subject. Prolactin is the hormone most associated with deep inner calm. It floods the body during nursing, meditation, and certain sleep stages. Subjects described the waking interval as profoundly still and unhurried. They were awake, but not in the way we are awake. Neuroscientists describe it as a third neurological state beyond ordinary categories. Almost no person alive today ever enters this state naturally. We did not conquer the night. We simply went unconscious through it. You're standing in total darkness at ELEUSIS 3,000 years ago. Around you, hundreds of initiates wait in absolute dark. The Eleusinian mysteries could only happen after sunset. The sand-healing dances of southern Africa also happen only at night. So do Siberian shamanic ceremonies and initiation rites across the Amazon. These cultures had no contact with each other. Yet every one of them chose darkness for their most sacred acts. Why does every ancient tradition reserve the sacred for night? Darkness was not understood as the absence of day. It was perceived as a qualitatively different domain, a place governed by forces inaccessible to sunlight. Ancestors and cosmic beings were reachable only through darkness. Initiation rites placed young people in deliberate total darkness. The disorientation itself was the transformation. Healers across the ancient world worked exclusively by firelight or in darkness. Modern neuroscience offers a partial explanation for this pattern. In total darkness, the brain dramatically reorganizes its processing. Auditory sensitivity rises and emotional states intensify without light. The altered states ancient people called sacred, neuroscience now calls predictable. Night was never the absence of the sacred. It was the sacred's address. The elder begins to speak, and every child leans in. Before writing, the spoken voice was the only hard drive. Everything a culture knew lived inside a human throat. The Aboriginal songlines of Australia encode navigational maps inside melody. These songs guide travelers across thousands of miles of desert. Elders transmitted precise ecological knowledge, exactly where water hides in drought. Genealogies stretching back dozens of generations lived entirely in memory. These weren't casual stories. They were survival manuals in disguise. Moral codes were woven into narratives, not carved into law. What is a myth, really, if not compressed ancestral experience? Psychologist David Rubin found narrative structure enables near-perfect oral recall. Rhythm, repetition, and rhyme were ancient memory technologies, not decoration. The campfire session was simultaneously school, library, court, and temple. Group identity itself was manufactured and renewed here every single night. The quiet hours of darkness made attention total and collective. Every culture's origin myth began as a late-night campfire speech. This oral tradition ran, unbroken, for 300,000 years. Every story you have ever loved is a ghost of that fire. You have never seen a truly dark sky. Statistically, almost no one alive today has. Light pollution now covers 80% of the planet. In Europe and North America, 99% cannot see the Milky Way. We erased the ancient dark in roughly one human lifetime. Every human who ever lived before the 20th century knew that sky. For 300,000 years, darkness was not the enemy. It was a recurring destination the mind traveled to every night. Neuroscience now has a name for what happened there. It is called default mode network activation. This network governs self-reflection, empathy, and long-range imagination. It switches on most powerfully when all external input disappears. What kind of mind forms when that switch is never flipped? Ours may be the first generation discovering the answer. We replaced firelight with screen light and called it progress. Both emit photons, but only one assembled the human mind. The ancient dark was not a void humans endured. You are not afraid of the dark. You are afraid of what it reveals.